What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today we have a Olympian on the podcast with us. We have Jake Herbert, who is, again, Olympian, a world silver medalist, two-time NCAA champion. I mean, an amazing wrestler, right? Wrestled at the top. And what was funny was the past year in 2024, we had the Jiu-Jitsu Open up in Michigan, Frankenmuth, and Jake Herbert registered. And my partner, Jeff, was telling me about it. And he's like, yeah, we got this guy, Jake Herbert. I was like, Jake Herbert? Jake Herbert's wrestling? Like, the hell? Like, what is he doing coming to, I just was surprised to see his name because, again, this isn't like a kind of good college wrestler or like a kind of good, this is like one of the best, right? When you think of wrestlers, right, you think, okay, like, he won the Hodge Trophy. Like,
he's like the best wrestler in the country, right?
Well, the Hodge Trophy, they give it to like an outstanding wrestler of that year, right? It's like this big thing in college. So, amazing wrestler. And so, he goes in there and my partner, Jeff, he goes, I'm going to stand with him. I was like, what? I'm thinking like, man, go pull guard and go for his legs. I want to feel it, And which again, I think that there's some fun in there because you're like, it's at this point, all of us are, late 30s, 40s. We're out there having fun. It's all extra.
Yeah.
And I think that's, we talk about this on the podcast with training, competing now as you're in 40s. It's like, after you've done some stuff, it's all just extra.
Yeah.
You're not really that attached to it because you're like, no matter what, you've got these things that you can sort of hang your ego on, right? You have these things in the mantle. You can say, yeah, no matter what, I have these. You can't take these away from me. So everything else is just bonuses. They're side quests. But anyway, we talked to him about some fun stuff. So we're going to talk obviously about wrestling. We're talking grappling, being fathers, dealing with that whole thing, and then also talk about some ideas on longevity training, things of that nature, stuff that I thought might be useful to you guys with your training. And so hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast and getting a perspective. Again, I know many of you guys who listen to this aren't wrestlers, but again, grappling's grappling, in my opinion. The rules change, but the road to success doesn't. It's all kind of the same. The circumstances themselves change, but the same mindsets and habits and everything else is the same required, right? So that's just the way it works. And so big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Charlotte's Web CBD. They have they're one of the premier CBD companies out there, have been for a long time. They make all sorts of different CBD products and cannabinoid products. So they have their CBN, which is their stay asleep product, which again is useful if you're trying to improve your sleep quality. It can be a really good boost for that. And then also too, they have a lot of new products that are coming out using functional mushrooms like lion's mane, reishi, along with some different like supplements within those to help support things for like focus, stress management, and things of that nature. So if you want to check out any of their products, and see if any of those things sort of catch your interest, check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. At checkout, you'll get a good deal on it, and you get to support the podcast through your purchase as well. Also, thanks to our friends over at Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Again, we just finished up the Jiu-Jitsu rash guard order. Hopefully you guys got it on that pre-order and got yourself some new rash guards. But again, I got my rash guards and stuff made through Epic Roll because I really like their no-gi gear. Their shorts are incredibly comfortable. Their rash guards are good quality. Everything that I've had from them is good quality stuff. And so again, I really like their gear that they make. And so if you guys want to check them out, go to their website and just browse around, right? For me, I like every now and then, just if I need a little injection of motivation or a little boost of fun in the gym, I will go buy some new gear. There's something about having a new rash guard, a new gi, and like, all right, I want to go to the gym and train. And so you can go to their website, you can browse around. If something catches your eye, whether it's a gi, rash guard, shorts, t-shirts, whatever it is, check them out, epicrollbjj.com. And then the promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off that order at checkout. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast for a small amount of money, very small pittance of green stuff or whatever color money you have in across the world. you can then get access to the behind the scenes stuff that we have for the podcast, some different videos and content that we produce. And also you get to support the podcast that you're listening to. If you guys want to check it out, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast to get details on what the membership offers, and more information and the pricing and everything is there for you if you are interested. Also, if you guys would like to get my daily email that I send out and also get my ebook and video that I give away for free, which is my Focus Jiu-Jitsu ebook, which is pretty simple. It goes into 12 different strategies on how to create situational training during open rolls. And so a lot of people, like, we'll talk about this on the podcast with Jake, where again, situational training is really, really important because you get more reps in, you get to focus on that specific area to improve it. Some gyms don't do a lot of situational work, and they'll just do like basically open rolls. Or if you're in a situation where, your gym does situational training, but you have these open mats, if you want to get more from those particular open training sessions, you need to do so with a focus on what you're actually doing. And a lot of people don't. They just go into the gym and move around a little bit and they get a good workout in, but afterwards they don't know if they're actually getting better or not. And so in the ebook, I will give you 12 different strategies on how to implement focus training during those open rolling sessions. So you can get more for them, whether you're a white belt or black belt, you can implement the ideas. And then afterwards, you'll get my daily email, which goes into everything from just general training tips and ideas, stuff on lifting and jiu-jitsu. I get into books that I'm reading, stories, just anything and everything I think might be fun or interesting to you or useful. And then on top of that, you can unsubscribe at any time if you do not like the emails. And so if you guys want to join the thousands of people that read it every morning, you can do so by going to my website at jujitsu.net/join. And guys, with that said, let's jump into this podcast and talk to Jake Herbert. Man, so how did you, you reached a high level of wrestling. How old were you when you got into wrestling?
All right. So that's fun because I'm exploring that journey right now with my kids. And I look back at it, right? Like my father was a Pennsylvania state champion. And like you have like levels of wrestling. Like if you're, a 4-time state champion from Massachusetts, right? Or like some like state that like doesn't like have good wrestling. That's it. But like PA,
right.
It's like
Pennsylvania's
it's different. It is different. We had out of the, I think it was like 100 and whatever NCAA qualifiers, like we had 39 or 40, and the next state that was like closest had like 18, right?
Yeah.
That were like origins from that home state. So it's big. My dad was a Pennsylvania state champion, wrestled D1 at Clarion University, and there was some powerhouse on the team when he was there. So it's kind of like in my blood, but he got me into, so I grew up very physical, right? Hyperactive as a kid, always wrestling with my friends. My dad got me into judo first though, for the first 2 years, from like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, just to kind of get on the mat, learn balance, learn this stuff. And then finally let me loose and started wrestling at like third grade. Yeah.
Okay. So he felt judo was just a little bit of a better start than just getting right into wrestling.
Yeah, just getting the balance. I'm not sure. I'm going to ask him what that was for that, because I've been again, my son's been in and around it. Like he did his first year of wrestling this year, but I wouldn't, it was 3 days a week. I took him once, there's maybe like 3 weeks this year. We went twice, like if he was ready for it, it was like a privilege to go to. And before that, like I have him, my whole goal is, how do I get them on a mat? I don't care if it's wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, whatever. How do I get them in a mat in some sort of combat gym, like 100 times, just so they see it, right? Yeah. Just so they have the awareness. They're in there, they're seeing the people, they're comfortable with it. Like I want my son to walk in and try to jump on the groups and engage in with that, versus like be timid and shy or not know, what's happening. So I just know, like, it's just slow exposure first. And so I bring them around when I do a camp or clinic or I do a thing, right? Like we have guys that I come in, I say like, hey, listen, if you have kids, bring your kids and let them just run around on the side, jumping on the ropes, climbing the walls, going crazy, right? And we can just grapple, Yeah.
Well, because it becomes this place where the kids go and it's like a fun time to be there, opposed to making it into some serious thing where they're getting roughed up. It's like, no, this is a fun place. So then when you eventually start to, hey, let me teach you something, their mind associates it with, oh, this is fun. This isn't serious. This isn't like a big deal. This is where we go to play around.
Exactly. Yeah. And they learn, and then I reward them afterwards. So like the first couple one was like hard. It was like I run at Victorious MMA. I run like on Mondays, just like an after school program. Like I call it like active kids class. And we just rent out the room and we just do, walk on your hands, learn to walk on your hands, learn to front flip, learning to climb rope, play a bunch of games in there. And some days we'll have 20 kids. Some days it'll just be me and my son. Which I'm fine either way. Like I don't care. Like I'm going to get in there and play with them. But he has that exposure of being on the mat. And then on the days that it was harder, we would leave and I would go and get him a milkshake, right? Or give him some sort of reward for doing that, because all of us in this room know that the intrinsic rewards. Like I feel better. Like I had a wrestling / jiu-jitsu workout this morning, and I feel that reward naturally of like the endorphins, that sweat that like out there too. So I'm going to do it with, milkshake, burger, $1, whatever it is now, until they can learn to process themselves, because my son likes working hard. Like when I remember getting one of the wrestling practices, all the kids are going crazy and the coach, I'm sitting back on the side and the coach is like, who wants to go out? And he uses this in a threatening tone. Who wants to go in the hallway and like run sprints? My son was like, oh, me. That's all he wanted to do. Like, right. Because like 3 practices before that, he was just in the hallway and the coach was like, had a stopwatch, was like, run down to that trash can and back. I'll time you. And he just was like out running. It wasn't like punishment for him. It was fun. Yeah. So it's so weird, man. That psychology of getting them exposed and then like liking it. That's a fun journey that I'm still on, because my son is 6.5. He'll be 7 in July here, or June.
Yeah. And how old were you when you started to kind of take it more seriously with wrestling, right? Because obviously, you got into it, 3rd grade, and then at some point you're starting looking at it like, oh man, this is like, you're starting to get more into it. You're more about competitions or getting focused more with your wrestling. How old were you think?
Yeah, I was probably like, I think like 7th grade was like the first time I went to like a big like Tulsa Nationals, like flew out for that, like a big plane ride. And it could have gone disastrous. My dad could have gone out there and I could have gone 0-2 barbecue, but I ended up winning the thing, which was great. So like, I think he like knew what that was like, but I always had like seasons of like sports, right? I was never wrestling full time, honestly, until like 9th or 10th grade. I didn't go into it full time there, but it got serious in like, I'd say about 7th, 8th grade, right? We were in the middle school stuff. My dad would be pulling me out of the middle school practice. I remember like every other Friday, he would take me up to the high school to wrestle with those guys. So it was like a 12, 13-year-old wrestling with like men, 16, 17, 18-year-old men. And I would be so upset because I knew they were playing dodgeball back in the middle school room. And I was like missing that. I was like so mad about missing that. But my dad was really good about finding just people in the area to put me in that. Like I always had this level of like kids I could go with and beat them up to keep that confidence. But then put me against like my senior year, he was bringing Vertus Jones in, who's Greg Jones's brother. Vertus Jones was the national finalist, lost to Cal Sanderson in the national finals, had like a takedown match against him in the All-Star Classic. And I remember like those practices, I'd go in and be like, dude, if I can just touch his leg, that's success, because he just would destroy at that level. So I think that's when it kind of started getting a little serious. And then again, right, I had to take it serious myself. I as a freshman, sophomore, like I wanted to be a high school state champion, and I chose and wanted that. I'm sure my dad wanted that for me, but he let me really figure out what my goals were and what I wanted, and then we just kind of hold the mirror up being like, well, are you really doing the things that a state champion would do as a 9th grader, a 10th grader, 11th grader?
So do you think, talking back as far as kids go, when you started out, there wasn't as much specialization until you got a little older. Now, a lot of these kids, well, no matter what the sport is, baseball, soccer, anything like that, there's a lot of specialization. Do you find some pros and cons with either way of doing it? And what do you think is the right mix?
Yeah, a ton of pros and cons with that, right? It's because you're absolutely right. Like, and again, it's you guys know it, right? It's like you've practiced an arm bar for 1,000 times, or at Chewy's level 1,000 hours, right? Like you can give me your arm, you could probably let me set up as deep and as what as I wanted to, and chances are you're probably going to figure out a way out of it. Like I'm probably not going to be able to tap you, right? Like you just have that experience. And inversely, I'd like to think like, hey, I can let you in on a single leg and go ahead and get really, really deep, but you probably have like an 85% chance of not finishing, right? It's just my role. I just have 30 years of defending people from a single leg. Like you have 30 years of defending an arm bar.
Right.
So I think at the time, so you can cheat that stuff up, but everybody has like a bell curve, right? At some point, like we only have a physical and an emotional and mental like time period to kind of like peak and be at our best. So that's what I'm really interested in studying and figure out is what that is. And some people's curves are longer, right? If you look at Ohio is notorious for this, right? They're like notorious for being so good in high school, and then they just have burned the kids out by college. They don't want to cut weight anymore. They don't want to wrestle. They're done with the sport. They hate it. They're out of it. Right. And thank God for jiu-jitsu and things like that, because it's a way for these guys to find their ways back on the mat, right? They just went so hard that they burnt out. So you have to figure out what that curve is. I think for me, I was really excited that I kind of like, I peaked at that right time. Like I was always a very good wrestler, you know, 6th in states as a freshman, 3rd as a sophomore, 2nd as a junior, won a state title as a senior, ranked number 1 in the nation, and then went to college and just kind of exploded. 3rd as a freshman, 2nd as a sophomore, national champ, won US Open, made the world team, world finalist, Olympian. So I kind of like exploded that perfect peak. And then by 31, I was already on my way down and out. You got to figure out when that ideal curve is for your sport, and every sport's a little different, right? It's my big problem with gymnastics is if I want my daughter to be an Olympian in gymnastics, she's already got to be there 6 days a week. She's 5, but she can't cognitively make that decision yet to be like, yeah, that's what I want. Like her brain's not developed and ready for that. But a sport like wrestling, you know, that window that you want them to sell, but it depends on what his goal is. And what I love about grappling is, I mean, you could do it for a long time if you preserve your body and you do it the right way. Now, so I don't know what the exact right answer is, but I just know there's that bell curve that once you start that competition, once you start that weight cut, once you start that hard training, your knee has a life cycle. My knee can only hit the mat this many times in a wrestling shot before at some point arthritis is going to build. It's going to tweak. Those injuries are going to catch up to you.
Yeah, trying to find that that like balance that keeping the burnout off long enough so that, like you said, with like say wrestling, you have these peak years of physical ability that you're trying to reach, and so you're reaching that point of like mental focus with like your physical peak at the right time, then letting it burn out, opposed to, you know, pushing someone so you get all that focus when they're young and they're, you know, their man strength, their hormones and everything haven't kicked in yet. And so, you know, that whole thing, it's interesting.
You got to look at the drive of the kid too. I think that's the other aspect too, right? Their dad's like, oh, my kid loves it. Like, no, they're like dragging them in and they'll burn out. You got to have, just like anything, if you run a car at top speed, it's going to break down, right? You got to cycle up and you got to cycle off. And for kids, that just might be, hey, you're going to play spring baseball and only doing wrestling once a week versus that 5 times a week grind. But because you need that time to get them good, to learn how to finish a single leg, to keep them competitive, to get them in there. But I think having that internal drive is going to be always the most powerful drive, that they want to do it. And if they're really obsessed by it, I know that I'm going to be better at pulling my kid back than trying to drag and motivate people forward. I'm going to have better success with holding him back with sport, with that stuff, than like trying to, you know, pull him along.
Well, and I wonder if you have that perspective because of the fact that you've done something like you've been, you know, at the highest level that wrestling has to offer. You've been in the Olympics, you've been a national champ, all these things. So maybe that gives you a bit of a detachment from your ego with it, because like, you're like, this isn't me. My son's not me. So whatever he does is what he does. I've done what I've done. My job is to support him. And I know that this thing could be a really beautiful thing. It can, you know, develop a lot of abilities and skills and mindsets. But at the same time, if that's not his thing, you're not going to be like, no, dude, you're doing this no matter what. You're going to give him, you know, choices. But again, at the same time, being able to encourage him in the right way with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about the sport of wrestling and grappling in general, is it kind of does force you to check your ego, right? Like you can go ahead and get really, really good at your local club and smash everybody in there, but there's levels of this thing, man. Just when I thought I was like really getting and understand it, I run into like different guys in this level and then they shut me down. Right. And I'm just like, wow, I feel like a helpless baby. Like we have this guy in our area now, Shea Butler, who was like, John Toth is like probably one of the better grapplers, I think, in the Michigan area that I've experienced. Right. Like I was promotion and brought in, and Toth is like, that guy's, there's a levels to that, man. I mean, that guy submitted me like 5 times in a 6-minute go while holding a tennis ball when I first like exposed, because I'm just trying to wrestle him. You know, I don't know any submissions, and he's just like, boop, 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 boop. I'm just like tap, 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 tap. Like I have no idea what the heck he's doing. But it's fun. And Shay was like one of his training partners. And I put on a gi and I go in. I'm like, all right, this guy's 230 pounds. He's a wrestling coach.
Oh,
So
put you in a gi.
In a gi. He shut me down. I felt like a baby. It was like he only gave me these two options and each one ended in submission. He's like, make your choice. And I was like, man, it's just like, and it's fun. So I think being able to check that ego is super important, especially when it comes to child development kids. Like I said, I'm trying to live along with my kids. Like when I want to say I live through my kids now, it's like I want that childlike excitement, but there's nothing I need to do. I don't. My son doesn't need to be an Olympic gold medalist because there's this hole being felt that I was only an Olympian, right?
Right.
He doesn't need to be a world champion because I was only a world silver medalist. Like it's his life. What I'm gonna have a hard time with is like him saying he wants to do something and not following through with it or not putting the work into it. And just how do I have that hold the mirror versus push versus be dad, versus coach. That's a tough one.
Right. Well, and as a wrestler and a grappler, right? Like a lot of times early on in the beginning, it's fun to a degree, but it's incredibly challenging because in the beginning you're taking your lumps, and then it becomes more fun when you're good enough to kind of play the game and you can start, having some success. And so it's, for me, it's like thinking about, when my son gets old enough, like having that fine line of like giving him like a healthy encouragement just to get through that other side. So look, like if you don't want to do this, that's okay. But I want you to know what this actually feels like to be successful at it, because then you actually have the contrast of what it actually is. Because in the beginning, it's going to be rough. It's going to be uncomfortable, but then like on the other side of it, where you're actually able to do something and you get your hand raised in a match, you did a move successfully, whatever that is. Now you're being successful. That's when a lot of times the grappling really changes and it becomes a lot more fun for people because they can actually play the game.
Yeah, exactly. And they have the cognitive ability to do that, right? Like right now, like no adult knows it, right? Like if they're out there, they know if they won or lost. Like these little kids at youth wrestling, they just go and they wrestle, and then all of a sudden the match is over, and they're both like,
yeah.
As soon as the one hand gets run, the other one just bursts in tears. He's like, I didn't win, bro. You're down 14-2. Like, what? You didn't know you weren't going to win? Like, no, they literally have no concept of that, right? Like, right.
So, man, how did you get started in? Obviously, you were, an amazing wrestler. How did you get like pulled into jiu-jitsu?
I feel like it is the best transition any wrestler can make when you're done with it, right? Like when you're done with the sport. So, I finished. I retired in 2016. Number 1 seed at the Olympic trials, and Jaden Cox, number 8 seed at that time, beats Kyle Dake and David Taylor to make the world team. They're all young at this time. And I'm like 31, and I'm like, my neck's sore. I'm all beat up. And I'm like, all right, that's it. Like great. I was on the world team the day before. I didn't make this Olympic team. Jaden went and got a bronze at the world championship. I was like, that's my 4th Olympic trials, my 4th Olympic cycle. I'm ready to like start life, right? I have my wife and I are engaged. We're going to have a family. We're going to start to figure it out. I'm like, all right. So I start going down the path, right? It's like, all right, Olympic wrestler, like, are you going to coach wrestling? Are you going to go UFC? Or are you going to go like WWE? Right. And I had to just start like eliminating. I was like, well, not WWE. That's on the road a lot. I've seen the lifestyles of those guys. I see what happens behind the scenes. Like, not for me.
Their body's breaking down
mentally, right? It's just the hard on the drive. Like, I mean, you're working out in hotel gyms. You're drinking. You're like, it's a hard lifestyle for them. They're gone 300 days on the road. I didn't want that, right? And then same thing, like, so I started exploring. I literally just went to Google and was like, I'm in Birmingham, Michigan. What is, jiu-jitsu gyms near me? And I went in, I was like, hey, I might do UFC. And I'm sure like every human being, and this is 2016. So how many people are walking in the gym be like, hey, I might be a UFC, guy, like a legit. And I had to be like, listen, I did some wrestling. Like, I'm actually kind of serious about this. Like I'm thinking it through, and I went to like one gym and then like the guy like put me the blue belt and I was just like, throw him around, and then he like moving his brown belt, and I threw him around. They're like, dude, I don't think this is the gym for you. They're like, this is just for like people who want to have fun and learn to defend themselves. Like you have this figured out. Like, you've never done jiu-jitsu. I was like, no, but I've wrestled my whole life.
Yeah, grappled.
I grappled. So I found my way onto the mat. And I loved it victorious. It was the crew, it was the guys, because it gets lonely, right? My whole life, I had a team of guys that I was training with in college. We were in the room every day to win national championships. After college, I'm with a crew of guys that are looking to win world and Olympic titles. I'm in a tribe. I'm there. We're getting each other and ourselves better to be the best ever. And then when you get out of that, it's like, well, who am I now? What's my identity, where I'm at? And I still need that outlet. You can go and get an Aerodyne bike in or a lift in or a sauna in, but it's not the same as like a good hard roll where your lungs are tired, your arms a little sore, you got the little mat burn on your face. Like I need that feel so that I don't like, I can let that out and not like take it out on my family or like normal people, right? In like the working world.
Yeah. Well, man, and also to the I don't know about you, for me, like I remember I didn't wrestle at the level you did, right? I got started in grappling late in high school, and then it was like I wrestled in high school, and then afterwards it was like, you know, I like this grappling stuff and I feel depressed, right? And this is 2003, so there weren't in here in Kentucky, which isn't a strong wrestling state anyway, there weren't a lot of you know, non like out of the season off season like wrestling options. And so it was like, and I was like, I got to do something. So I started doing jiu-jitsu, and then it was like that camaraderie, that room of being around a bunch of people just beating the crap out of each other. We're, you know, we're all like bonded, we're having a blast, but we're beating the crap out of each other. Man, I don't know what that is, but like that fills some void in me where like if I don't have that, like my life doesn't feel good, right? Like, you know, COVID came around and we were off for about a month during that period. And I remember like as soon as we came back, it was like that feeling of being around other humans beating the snot out of each other. Like I need that, you know, so.
Isn't it funny? And what's weird is like, I think society tries to tell us that's not normal. Like, I think they're not normal, right? Like it's complete, like we grew up on this. Like we grew up as a tribe. Like that's what we did, right? It was like the biggest, strongest, toughest guy. And like, I couldn't just go and, you know, you look at, what is it? Chimp Empire, like does a great documentary, right? Of like, that's all we are. We're not that far off from like monkeys and that stuff. It's like, I don't want to kill the next strongest guy because I need you. But how do I know like, all right, hey, you're top dog, you're alpha, and we're up here. But like we live in a different society that we can communicate now and work together. And you just need that because I mean, the world is full of soft people who, you know, in your words, don't like to be touched. Like, I don't understand that. What do you mean? Like to be touched? Like,
well, and you think about every culture has some form of fighting, most of them being like some form of wrestling. You know, you have, I mean, ancient stuff goes back. I mean, this is before the advent of modern medical technology, where if you had like a torn ACL, we can repair it or whatever, right? Like but even then, when people could be like, have life altering injuries, they were still wrestling, they were still grappling, they were still fighting that people would do recreationally for fun. You know, so again, like you said, now in the modern world, people look at us with our mangled ears and, you know, busted up faces, and they're like, you guys are strange. They're like, this is what we've been doing for thousands of years. You guys are the weird ones. You're the ones that are trying to like shirk off your DNA. Like it's like somehow like iPhones were invented and you're different now. It's like, you would probably feel better and happier if you got into like some of these things that we've been doing for thousands of years that humans have done.
1,000%, right? Like, and again, I understand. I said like a tweet out there once. I remember I got like hung out there, but I put a tweet out there like, I don't believe in anxiety, right? And I put it out there like, and I got like berated. Like people, my phone blew up. Like people jumped out. I was like, wow, sensitive topic, all from like anxious people. I was like, anxiety is real. Like, sure, I don't choose to believe it for myself, right? Like I'm not an anxious person. I don't get anxious. Like I don't want to believe in things that make me weak. In there, and that's the way I kind of like look at it and view it is like, you know, if somebody's eating real whole foods, they're outside getting sunlight, right? And they are exercising and sweating, you're probably going to cure like 95% of like all your ailments, like diet, sleep, and exercise. If you have those things in place, that's great. It's just really hard to have a great diet, get good exercise, and get great sleep when you're working a 9 to 5 and freaking worried that I'm one car crash away from financial ruin. And that's unfortunately like the society that like we built, which is, there's great things about it, right? I can pick this thing up and get any information that I ever want. And Grubhub, I'm Grubhubbing sushi tonight, which like any king 1,000 years ago would have shit their pants to have like food and the fuel that we have, a whole freezer full of meat. Like there's great positives to it, but there is that other side of things that probably does make it really hard. Because then once you stop moving, you know, we're meant to move, we're meant to be in sunlight, we're meant to be in a tribe of 400 people. Not a tribe of 4 million people, right? Because when I'm a pretty damn good wrestler. I was really good at my talent, but I go on here, and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, my wrestling sucks in comparison, you know, to everybody else out there. But that's out of 8 billion people in the world. You know, we're not meant for that. So it's going to be interesting to see. And that's where I know like Jiu-Jitsu, gyms, this camaraderie, this tribe is going to save people, right? It's going to save people's lives. It has, and it will continue to have it, just providing that outlet, that brotherhood, that community of like health and well-being.
Yeah. How did you, as a young guy wrestling, keep your body somewhat healthy? And then, so we talked about, those key ingredients, the diet, the exercise, the recovery, and probably a lot of those things as young men, or we don't really focus on that much because we can get away with a lot more. We can do a lot of the wrong things, eat poorly, drink, and still perform well. So talk about kind of a little bit back in the day, what your training looked like and how you took care of yourself versus now as you started jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So what is it? Sobriety and sleep. Those are things I didn't need in my 20s. And like now I'm 40 now. I turned 40 in March. Like, man, it is unbelievable the difference I feel of it too. Cause like, again, even like now it's like, I would equate to the way I'd feel after like an all-nighter, like partying and going to Waffle House, and then getting to bed at like 5 a.m. and then up for like a 7 a.m. workout. Like I can still push through and do it. That's how I feel if like, I go to sleep at 10:30 and eat a bag of chips at night. I get like 5 hours or 6 hours of sleep. It's just like, it stinks. So like the youth, I think that helped a lot is one, being young and then eating and putting the right things in me. I didn't know exactly what I knew now, but I would eat as clean as well as I can. I love cooking for myself. I love doing that. I spent time recovering when I would get an injury, because they happen, right? Tore an ACL in my freshman year of college before I ever competed. And I took my rehab really seriously and I stayed with it too. So when my doctor told me to do something, I'm the type of person that I do it. And then I'm going to do it outside. If he says, go home and do, 3 sets of 10 of these band exercises, I did it because that was my job, right? There wasn't anything else that would stop me. And that was the most important thing. So as I got older, I mean, it would recognize it. Like I would go, work out in the morning, for my college, my post-college days, work out in the morning, and I'd go to the physical therapist like an hour or two before I'd go to practice, and I'd be able to like hit on all the things. And you're not going to leave there super sore, but it's like, sometimes I don't have time now to do like an hour of PT, which is like what I need. Like Monday I was on the mats and I just did like little things that I wouldn't count as a workout anymore, but your body freaking needs that. Like I was just able to put my whole life revolved around training. So it was like, if I wasn't training, I was recovering and I was prioritizing my recovery. And I had this like theory that like, you didn't recover as well when you drank, because I thought it was because if I wasn't drinking, I'm sitting down from like 7 o'clock till like 10 o'clock at night. And if I was drinking, I was on my feet out moving from, 9 o'clock till 1 or 2 a.m. And it's just so different. So like, I definitely know that was like a bigger thing on that recovery was fueling myself and then putting myself in the right environment. It was good living with, I don't think I could have done it training with my family and having a family when I did it. These guys, I want to give them mad props, like Jordan Burroughs and Kyle Dake, Reese Humphrey, the ones that were training with kids. I'm like, man, I don't understand how you come home and then be a father. Like I was selfish. Like didn't have kids. I didn't have that responsibility of any of that stuff. And I lived with guys that like I could come home and, we could figure out business. We could talk through things. We were like building little things that, I know some guys just come home and play video games. I wasn't a video gamer. So I was like business stuff that I could sit and talk to. So it kind of like kept me in that environment, because it's one of my favorite quotes is environment trumps willpower every time eventually. Mm-hmm. And so I really believe in you control your environment. You want to set up your environment to be as productive as you can possibly, right? And if you're not in control of your environment, you're probably coming from a place of like victimhood, right? Because again, we all create it, right? I'm living the life I'm living right now because of decisions I made 10 years ago. And if I want to live a different life, I got to start making different decisions now.
How do you get someone? So that's an interesting thought, right? Like, how do you, things become so habitual, people get locked into these rhythms, their environment's just there. And like you said, it's so easy to pass blame to something that isn't you, right? So how do you deal with it? Because obviously I know you coach people and things of that nature. How do you get someone to pull up that mirror and stare at their bullshit and be honest with themselves so that they can actually begin the process of changing? Yeah.
So the biggest thing is I can't make anyone do that. They have to want to, right? Yeah. All my coaching clients, it's the same thing. It's really hard when people come to me and they're like, hey, listen, I really want you to work with my friend or this or that. And I'm like, hey, all I can do is jump on a phone call with him. If he doesn't want to do it, there's no trick. There's no tool. It's got to be internal. They got to want to do that. And they might not know how. That's different. Wanting to and not knowing how is very, very different. You might have tried and failed and tried and failed, and that's great. But there are people out there that know how. If you what is it? There's this awesome hotline called the Success Hotline, ran by Dr. Rob Gilbert. And he says, if you're willing to learn, like, you can do anything. If you're willing to learn, nothing can stop you. If you're not willing to learn, nothing can help you. And I think that's the biggest thing, is having that willingness and eagerness. Like, you might not know exactly what to do or how to do it, but if you want to do it, it's trial and error, right? It's get with a coach, get with a friend, get with somebody, and make a little improvement. Because, like I said, we all know, right? Like, the difference between a great, submission, a little submission might be just a little tweak, just in the way your hips are, just the way you're flexing your back, the way you're doing this. It might be the littlest difference. And if you start that trajectory now, I love the example of a plane taking off from New York. A 1 degree turn, over Pennsylvania is going to be the difference of you winding up in Mexico or Seattle versus LA. Right. But if you started that when you're over, Iowa, you're not going that far of the duration. So it's just best to start now with little tiny changes instead of that whole 180.
Yeah, but I guess it's kind of like going back to the idea of wrestling with as kids in wrestling, right? They ultimately have to want to do it. And if they want to do it, then you can start to supply the how-to. You can find the coaches, you can support them in whatever way, but it always starts from that person, from a deep inner desire to change.
Yep. And that's the thing too. And I love this too, because I think Peter Thiel said this, but if knowledge was everything, right, we'd all be billionaires with six packs. Like, all that knowledge.
Well, that's like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ, right? Like, we have like you have these things, right? Like, you have the accumulation of human knowledge, but most people sit around and like scroll and watch like
cat
slop,
videos,
right? You watch the slop of the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
You could literally like read like just a wealth of like philosophers and business tycoons, whatever, but you're scrolling and watching like TikTok videos, that's great.
Yeah.
Going back to the grappling thing and getting older, one question I was curious about is, training now. You've been through all these different stages of competitive levels. You're competing in multiple, or you've competed and grappled in different disciplines. What do you do right now? Because you're 40. By the way, when was your birthday?
March 6th.
Okay, I was March the 13th. We both just turned 40. Welcome to the 40 Club, bro.
Yeah.
So going back to the idea of being an older grappler, like, what are some things that you do to train for longevity? Because we're at that point where, it's fun to compete. It's fun to get out there and get a little rough and tumble, but at the same time, you're trying to keep your bucket of bones together for the long haul. So what do you do to like train, but at the same time, preserve yourself for the long haul?
Yeah. So it's really difficult, and it's almost like counterintuitive, right? I actually had this conversation this morning with my one training partner, Steve. He's 37. He had basically had a heart attack, and he now has this defibrillator in his chest. But he's dude, the guy, such a good grappler, in knowledge that he has too, is black belt. And the guy knows what to do, but I can feel like when I was going with him the first time, like I just would go in my spidey senses. Like, if somebody's trying to take my arm this way, I know I'm going the other way. And my spidey senses I was just constantly threatened when I was with him, and still am. But him and I were having that conversation that it's different. Like, you have to put in the work and go hard, right? You got to go really, really hard and push yourself to a certain point to get to the level that you're at, right? To get to the level of Olympics and national champion, you have to do that. But then what's hard is when you hit this change that I'm no longer, I say my number one goal of competing in your tournament, the Jiu-Jitsu, my number one goal in that, did I want to win? Yes, absolutely. My number one goal was I wanted to be able to train Tuesday. Like, that was it. That is the first and foremost, which means if somebody gets me somewhere, anywhere here, stop it, right? Like, ego done. I'm going to tap. I cannot deal with the setback of 6 months of not being able to train, of hurting a shoulder, of hurting a knee, of doing that because something stupid that I let the ego get in the way. I didn't tap fast enough, right? I don't have that ability. So what I do in the way that I think about it is when you get to that point when you go, it's that 5th round and you're tired and you're hurt and you know you need to go one more because that's where I'm going to make that gains. As an old person, when I get to that level, shut it down and stretch. Like that's it. Like I feel that like, all right, now I need to go one more. And I'll say, nope, shut it down and stretch. Instead of going one more round with somebody really, really tough that pushes me, I'm grabbing the white belt that's 130 pounds and I'll do an easy flow round, or I'm going to shut it down and stretch because I got to be more consistent. Now, I don't have to have more intensity. I need more consistency, which means I got to be able to train. So any meathead can go into the gym and lift and get strong and beat it down. The true champions, you'll see the true champions are the ones that are staying after class, stretching. The true champions, ones that are really good, are getting there and warming up before the warm-up, right? And moving around. So I think that's really the big thing is what am I doing beforehand and what am I doing afterwards? But getting that pattern interruption in there that, hey, I know this, I recognize, I know who I am. I still think I'm 27-year-old, freaking unstoppable, Olympian in my mind. And I'm not. I'm 14, I'm 40 years old. That was 14 years ago. So I know that I can't do it. I got to listen to my body and it's shut it down and stretch. And then what are the healthy things I'm going to do in between? I'm going to drink, protein and produce. I'm going to drink as much water as I can. I'm going to recover, right? I got to get my sleep. That was the hardest thing during, I think, the last Olympic cycle was my rest and recovery was just as important as getting my training in.
Because you're around 30 at that point.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. It's hard to do because it's not what got me to where I was. I had to do those extra, and you can get away with it, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 when you're young and you have all those hormones going. I mean, I had my first USADA test I ever gotten at 24, came back, not as like a failure, but it came back flagged because my testosterone levels were so high. So they went and tested my B sample and it came back and it said it was just naturally occurring. And I freaking stuck that thing right up on my refrigerator so that every girl coming in could see that. Like, just so you know. Right?
Just letting them know.
Yeah, just so you know, right? Like that's what you're dealing with.
That's that's an interesting thing I've thought about where as we get older, we never really mentally, you never really feel different. You feel like you're the same person you've always been. And so especially if you get to a point where you become attached to a certain version of yourself at a given time, right? Like you said, your mid 20s, you're starting to peak out physically. You're like, man, I like this version of me, right? It's so hard that when you start to feel that slip to change and let go of that, to say, oh, like I'm 30 now, or I'm 40 now, or what, I have to adjust. And even with I was reading about men, our prefrontal cortex doesn't fully form until we're typically in our 20s, mid 20s. So our brain doesn't fully lock around and actually give us good executive function, to stop being an idiot until we're around in our 20s, which makes sense why we do so much dumb stuff. And then right around in our mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, we're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Maybe I should be thinking about this for the long term a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Which blows my mind because how 2 generations ago were you married with a wife and 4 kids at 19 years old and you had your whole career. I don't understand how these guys are making those decisions because I'm still waiting for people to come up to me and be like, hey, the gig's up. I know you're not really an adult. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I don't feel like I'm a true adult, but I have all these adult responsibilities that happen.
Well, so that's yeah, man, that's funny.
What was for you? Was there something? I know you kind of mentioned a little bit about the camaraderie, but the retirement from being, you're not that same person. You're not. I mean, you're still an Olympian, of course, but you're not at that level anymore. Making that decision and then kind of dealing with it, accepting it, and moving on to something else. What was that process like for you?
It's still happening, right? It's still happening at 40. You just get better at handling it. It's really hard because you have so much of your ego tied up to, so much of your ego and identity tied up into it, right? That was my whole life. And that's what I am. And my wife still jokes about it. On Christmas cards, she writes it up. She's like, Jake, what should I say about you? Still an Olympian? Yeah, put that on. Jake's still an Olympian.
Your wife sounds like fun. I like your wife. She sounds like fun.
Yeah. But it just comes down to the decision of what do I want more of, right? I knew what I was doing for the Olympics. I had to be completely selfish. I couldn't have that balance of, what do I want more of? I want to be a great husband and a great father. now, right? So that's my new gold medal that I'm striving for. So it means I got to put time and dedication into being a father, being a husband, being intentional. What are those things? And I was ready, right? I was ready to depart. I've done enough, right? I didn't get everything that I wanted to. It's one of my favorite quotes that our Olympic coach, Bill Zadek, said to me. He's a world champion. And I remember one day in practice, we were having a conversation. He told me, he goes, Jake, you know what the worst part about being a world champion is? And I'm like, what, too much endorsement, too many sponsorships, too much this, doing that. And I was like, what, Bill, what's the worst part about being a world champion? He was like, not being a 2-time world champion. And I was like, oh, right. This concept of enough. I think guys driven that are in this mentality like us, right, have that hard concept of like, what is that enough? Right. When do I know what it is and how do I accept it? So that's something that's really, really interesting that I continue to go through. And again, it's talking to other people. It's taking that time and giving myself a new purpose, right? You need to have that I still have all this freaking energy and I have to direct it somewhere. And if I take Olympic energy style and I put it into it's great. It works a lot of times. You take the Olympic energy and you put it into some things in business, it goes really well. You put into this other relationship, it goes really well. But when you put into things like your kid's diet, it doesn't go so well all the time. Like they got to eat chickpea pasta every now and then. You can't lose your mind on your wife for feeding them chickpea pasta. Like we're like them eating the crap. I call it like anything. Again, my kids, anything that's made in a factory, we refer to as poison. And anything that is like single real ingredients, we call food. Like I want them to know the difference of that, right? So like people will hand my kids candy and I'll be like, oh, you're giving them poison. And like, no, it's candy. Like, no, it's poison, right? Like they understand. And again, there's my poison collection right there, right? Our wine collection there. And there's my Heal Me collection. So it's like, what side do I want to get down to tonight, right? Like sometimes like, where I'm at. But I just want them to understand and make that decision because I want my kids to be in 20 years, they're making their own choices, right? Like you guys actively choose, like it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Am I going to go to Chili's and drink my face off at 10 a.m. or am I going to go into the jiu-jitsu gym? Am I going to go to church or am I going to go on a walk with my family? Like you get to pick and choose. And I want them to recognize and be intentional about their choices and just understand what it does to them.
Right. Well, and it goes back to the idea, where, it's funny because if you say things like this, people sometimes, or even if like for instance, we were at a family member's thing and, like they wanted to give my son a chicken nugget. I was like, no. I was like, I'm not giving him chicken nuggets. Cause like I hear every parent, they say, my kid wants nothing but chicken nuggets. I'm like, he's not getting chicken nuggets. I was like, he eats great. He eats real food all the time. Like, he gets little snacks here and there, but he's not eating chicken nuggets. And it's funny because when you do that, people look at you weird. But you're like, no. Think about this for a second, right? Like we have this epidemic of childhood obesity. Everybody's like unhealthy. They're out of shape. I mean, like you see how this is working for you, embracing the drinking sodas, candy bars, and all this junk all the time. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with giving your kid a milkshake for doing something hard and appreciating it for this treat that it is. But it shouldn't be like, hey, let's sit around every morning and let's, blast our kids with Lucky Charms and friggin' Pop-Tarts or something and think it's good for them, right? So it's fine. It's fine in its place. But at the same time, you want to make sure that it has its place and it's not like this is just normal everyday food.
Yeah. And that's hard because I can't change. And people are in that situation. They're like, listen, I don't have the time. It's hard, right? Life is hard, right? Like being in shape is hard. You have to dedicate yourself, eat well, do this, but being out of shape is also hard. And I'm not saying I have it all or know it all, right? Being married is hard. Being divorced is hard. Like choose your hard, right? It's going to be tough either way. And I don't have it all. I'm just saying I choose like the evils that I know, right? And that I'm aware of, right? And again, my again, right? If our kids have, our kids have never had McDonald's. I'm not saying that I've never had McDonald's. I couldn't eat it now. Like I don't like physically it like repulses me at this point that I'm in. But I think what's awesome is like getting them to recognize and have them like make those own mistakes and learn. And I'm not judging anybody from doing it. This is just the way that I'm going to do it. The way I want to expose my kids to. I get to pick and choose what my kids have. And again, I want to brainwash them in a positive way and then have them make that decision themselves. right? If my son wants to sit around and play video games and sit there and eat Doritos and smoke a bunch of weed and do nothing at like 20 to 21, like it'll be one of the hardest things in the world for me to see and do. And I'm always going to just try to hold him, but he better not, what is it? The quote, like, you can't complain for the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. Right. Like success leaves clues, right? You get to pick your life that you want. And what it is it's a accumulation of a bunch of habits, and you pick and choose your habits, and you pick and choose your environment, and you can start making those changes. That's what I always start with people, that if they want to have a conversation about it, it starts with having a conversation. Again, right? How can I pray for you? Shirt, right? It took me 38 and a half years to define Christ, right? To really dedicate myself to God and Jesus. And it's not that I wasn't a bad person or was afraid of anything else. Like I did the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And when I just had this tribe of dads who were business owners that were like having great marriages, making great money, they're great fathers, they're doing everything I want. And none of them were perfect, but I looked at like 10 or 12 of these guys across that I really emulated. I really wanted to be like, and I was like, what do they all have in common that I don't? And I was like, they were all Christian men. And I was like, well, let me learn more about this. Let me ask more about it. And I found out, like, the thing that kept me away from, my religion for so long was I looked at it as get this, right? That driven mindset that, like, if I was going to be a Christian, I had to be the Pope. I had to be the Olympic gold medalist of Christians, right? If I'm going to do it. And there was no other option. One of the guys is having a conversation around, just one day it clicked. He's like, Jake, I know how you're wired. I know that it's like, it is that you have that achievement mindset. I'm not saying the achievement mindset, like, hey, you work hard, you get the milkshake. I'm not, there are things that are wrong with that too. There are struggles that come with it. It's just, I would rather choose that my kids work their butts off and earn, get what they earn. But the guy told me, and he's like, you're looking at the achievement mindset. It's not about that. It's just about a relationship with Christ. And I was like, oh my God, like it just changed my point of view. The one thing that I heard that it was like, and then I started exploring, right? I went and met with my pastor, and I started going to Bible study, and just started, and I found another good group of people, right? That guys that I like and admire. And again, I can always 2 years from now be like, nope, that's not for me. But right now, like, in my heart of hearts, like, I'm like, man, this has been a positive thing for my kids, for my family, and for myself. And it's something that just took me time to stumble upon and find. This is weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's weird. That's life, right? It's just, we're stumbling. And like you said, you start looking around at people and you start noticing that, hey, like, all you guys have this thing in common. That seems to be a thing. What do you think, like, when you look at it, what do you think it is that, about being a Christian that helped those guys?
Yeah.
And helped you? Yeah.
So I think it's just the aspect of, like, acceptance of, like, there's just so much that we don't know. And we can't, because I'm such a control guy, right? My whole life, it was like, hey, shit in one hand, pray in another. Let's see what fills up first, right? Like, I live my life that way about taking action. And it's not that God doesn't want you to take action. Like, God gave us, like, free will to take action, to make our choices, and to mess up. So I think that's what I love. But I love the foundation of it. When I start looking, what really got me into it too was, like, I was sending my kids to, like, I wanted them to have this, like, faith-based pillar, because I just think it's such a good pillar of, like, being a good person, right? Doing the right thing because it's the right thing. It just got such a great community. Our school is 2 blocks over here, and, like, I couldn't be more happier with, like, who their teachers are and what they're installing in my kids. Just appreciation and gratitude and work ethic, and the stories and that they're learning, and how they're learning it. So I didn't want to be like, do as I say, not as I do, right? So it was like, go explore it myself. And it's something that brings me and my son closer. Like, we pray before dinner, we pray at night. It's really cute. It's an awesome thing that we get to do, to bond together over. And it's really led me to some, like, great people and some great opportunity, right? And it's kind of taken all that, like, negative stuff, and I kind of have, like, a place to kind of unpack it and just and look at it from a different way, that it doesn't look as negative. It's just kind of accepting, that darkness that, we all have in us.
Right. And there's even an aspect of holding yourself to, like, a higher power, higher standard, right? Because as humans, we're all screwed up, we're all fallen beings, right? But there's a difference of saying like you're holding yourself to a standard that you'll never reach. But it's the attempt of trying to do so, or at least holding yourself and measuring yourself there, and trying to be in that as much as you can, opposed to just, looking around you and saying, well, this is what's normal in society. Let me just partake into this, right? So you might be okay for society standards right now, which, I mean, you could make your views on that as you want to, and then there's another thing to sort of raise that bar to something else.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like taking that white belt mentality, right? Like I've taken that into religion, which I really, really like, because I am a white belt in it, but I keep that in the jiu-jitsu grappling world too. And that's what I really, really like, is adapting that mindset that like I can always learn, right? From anyone. I mean, I'll never forget doing a wrestling clinic up in Alaska, right? In this little tiny town of like 120 people total on some like fishing island. And like this kid is like hitting this like roll through tilt. And I'm like, show me that again. I was like, I've never seen that. Right. And like, it was just one little adjustment that I'm like, epiphany, right? Eureka. And then I went out and became a repertoire for my senior year. And I had to score like hundreds of points from that cheap little tilt. And all he was doing was just the difference of how I locked it in and where I put my arm to roll through it. But it just kind of was one thing that I saw from like another kid. And this is like a 10-year-old out in Alaska, in 2007 or something like that. Something, okay. It was nuts, right? Of what I learned and what I did. So like, you can always, having that example of I can always learn from somebody. I'm always looking to learn, rather that's what I should be doing, or I can learn an example of that. That's probably something I shouldn't be doing. And I think just being that curious, right? That's what I love about kids. And I love like continuing to be a kid is being curious, because it gets me excited, right? When you're genuinely curious about something, you want to know, you have this energy. So like when I wake up in the morning, I intend to be, what am I curious about, what the day is going to bring. And when you take that level of curiosity, it really changes things versus being stuck in that mundaneness of like, I know what today is going to be like. I'm going to get up, I'm going to have my Pop-Tart, then I'm going to go to work, then I'm going to try not to get fired, then I'm going to do this, I'm going to come home at 5, and then I'm going to, like that sounds like a nightmare to me. Like normal, if that's normal, like not me. Like I don't want that to be normal to me and the crowd that I run with.
When did you start jiu-jitsu? Was it like 31? Is that when you started?
31, 9 years. Finally got my purple belt after my Chewjitsu championship.
Nice. Yeah. So what, being like at the highest level in wrestling and now in jiu-jitsu is kind of like starting at a lot of kids now start jiu-jitsu, and by the time they're 20, they're elite and they're world champions. Like, what's your goal and like, what's your mindset, obviously, when you're training, and what do you want to achieve through jiu-jitsu or with jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I don't want to get hurt. That's my number one goal is continue to train. Like I want to be able to roll with my son, when like my son's 16 or sorry, he's 6. When he's 16 in 10 years, I want to be able to roll with him. Right. I want to be able to still go to the tournaments and still throw it on. Like I just want to be able to be in there. Right. My father-in-law has this great quote. He's getting up there in his age, but he's like, Jake, I just want to be involved. He's like an orgy. I just want to be in there somewhere.
That's a great quote.
I love it. I love that quote. And it's the same thing. I just want to be able to move my body with confidence and competence. Right. I'm not like rolling at that level. Like I don't know how much of like that like level to get to I have anymore, but I want to be able to flow and move and sweat and learn, right? And that's what I love about being in there. So it's that mental aspect of it too. And then just being able to break it down, right? Like I finally now know like when I have my pass side control and I get in there and I get like I don't even know what the names are, it's called, but I get this choke locked up. I now know it's so inverse that I fall to my side and run my hips in, kind of like a Dars. Yeah,
it's like a Dars.
Yeah. And I'm finally figuring out, but I never knew, like I'd always get it locked in, but try to put the pressure down. I never knew like drop, because it felt so uncomfortable for me, because I felt like I'm just giving an opportunity to step over and wrestling. Yeah. Right. Like headlocks, wrestling in front headlocks, my elbows are short. Jiu-jitsu, you're trying to throw it through to opposite shoulder. And I'm just like, every time I go in there, I can pick up one or two little things. And that's just what makes it so fun, is that, and I just have so much more to go. And because I get to be at like the wrestling level, like I get to like cut the line and jump into like guys like you. Cause I can spar, right? I know how to like not hurt anybody. I know how to like,
Sure.
not like go over and do that. And then I have things that I can do. So when I roll with somebody, it's like, I want to get better, but I'm also here to help serve you. Like, how can I get you better? Like, how do you want to use me? Do you want to know something from a single leg defense? Like and I've had the honor and privilege of getting to like, Carlos Condit brought me down in 2012 to like train with him. And I got to like connect with John Jones and help him out. Same with, Andre Arlovsky was like at our gym when we were getting ready training too. Damian Maya, and then like all these guys. And I know I'm getting older now that I don't have the relationship, but like Ben Askren, right? Like Chris Weidman, Phil Davis, Tyrone Woodley, Michael Chandler. These are guys like I grew up like wrestling with. Like I know them.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Cormier, like know them on like a first name basis. It stinks getting older that like these younger guys are getting up and I don't have that relationship with them anymore. But like I love just, like I said, just being in there and being involved.
Yeah. So a couple quick questions about training like stuff. So just thoughts and ideas on it and what works best for you or what you would recommend. So like when it came to you being at your best, how much of that were you doing like drill work, like getting your reps in, obviously with like looks and things like that versus like live work? And then how much of that was like situational versus just like, live goes?
Yeah.
Like what were you focused on, drilling versus like live, or in situational versus fulls?
Situational. We do a lot of live situations, right? Like situations are an old man game. Live is like a young man's game, right? Like, you can grab that new young 24-year-old Chewy and you just go situations in like front headlock and you're going to crush him, right? But going out, he might have the stamina where you're starting up here and you got to get yourself to that situation. I mean, I believe that wrestling and grappling is there's only like 8 or 9 like really key situations, right? That if I understand guard, if I understand turtle, if I understand side control, like there's only 8 or 12 situations. That's once you know how to control it, an attack from there, and then escape from there, you're going to be very, very good. Then it's just a matter of like, now, like again, right? Like I put it the equation of like, I can improve way more in my golf game than Tiger Woods can. Like he's going to practice 1,000 hours and make this much improvement. And I'm going to practice 2 hours and my golf game is going to improve this much because I suck at golf and I don't do anything.
Right.
So a lot of it's like more situational live in there, but you still got to have, I'd say that would be like 60% of it. And then you got to throw the drilling in there too. And again, it's the same thing. I got to drill it a couple times before I know it. I don't have to drill it for hours and hours and hours. Once I do it, and then it's just like, how do I put myself in the situation that now I have the opportunity to hit it live and live and live.
Jake, real quick, can you tell us a little bit about your coaching, what you offer, and kind of how people can work with you in that capacity?
Yes. So you can email me, jake.herbert1@gmail.com, right? I don't have an assistant. I get to pick and choose who I coach with, what do I do, and where I'm at. Can shoot me a DM on social, right? Jake Herbert at 84. That works. I do individual coaching, but I also I run a group of fathers who are business owners. So if you check out the Dad Edge podcast, Larry Hager runs that, and I'm one of the one of the leaders in the boardroom. So that's the coaching group for fathers who are business owners. And I joined that myself and was a member of it for 3 years. And then after 3 years of being in it, they asked me to come over on the other side and just help them train and run it.
Very cool.
What are some challenges that just like off before we leave? What are is there like a big challenge or a common trend that you see amongst dads who are trying to run their businesses and do all this other stuff?
Time management, right? Time management and prioritization, right? Priority management. Once you can figure out like the priorities and then how do I manage that time and time management, energy management is really what it comes down to, because they're both one of the same thing, because it's kind of like this weird wheel that like when I'm crushing it in business, either my health is, suffering or my relationship with my wife and kids are suffering. And how do I get that like as balanced as possible? We want to crush it in all three, but it's really hard to be 100% in all three of them, right? So we got to just figure out what that enough is and what are those systems or habits or things that I need to really move the needle so that we can give enough attention to the places that we need to be, right? Because I can't be the best am I the best father every single day in the whole wide world? Am I the best business owner every single day in the whole world? Am I the best, with my relationship with my wife and kids and my own physical health? Like what I can't do in a day, I can expand and do much better in a week, which I can expand and do much better in a month, which I can expand and do much better in a quarter. Right. But I also have to figure out that enough of that.
Awesome. Any advice for anyone maybe starting in wrestling or having their kids start in wrestling, or even anything you do different? I mean, anything you could have gone back and changed, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I just would encourage you guys to, right. Normal people, these are my two favorite quotes. Normal people practice until they get it right. Champions practice until you can't get it wrong. Right. That's a mindset that, like, program your kid's mind, program your own mind. If you're not programming it, somebody else will. Right. The success hotline, Dr. Robert Gilbert. This number is freaking unbelievable. It is, I'm going to give it out here, 973-743-4690. And if you call that number,
belief is more important.
He has a message every day. So let's see.
To test hotline message number 12,484.
12,484. Wow. So the guy's been doing this hotline for 32 years. Like, every day he leaves a new message.
That's consistency.
Every day, a new message. He's the king of consistency. Every day he leaves a new message, a positive programming, a positive belief. I call that number every single day, because everybody here has 5 minutes that they do this and doom scroll. I call that number first before I'm allowed to doom scroll. The positively, and I know it's going to be positive programming. So that's that. And then I love what the Champions Creed, which is, I'm not judged by the number of times I fail. I'm judged by the number of times I succeed. And the number of times I succeed is directly related to the number of times I fail and keep on going. Right. So, like, that's like programmed into my mind. That's programmed my kids. And it's basically what it does is it just gives you this, like, relentless attitude. Right. Like, and that's the thing, like Chewy, like, if we ever get the privilege of, like, getting to go on a mat, like, and I'm not there anymore, unfortunately, but like 10 years ago, I would have been like, you're going to tap me 195 times until I eventually maybe get one, or you're going to be so tired, I'm going to have to get, like, a cardio tap. But when you compete against something that won't stop, like, it sucks. Like, and there's only one way to, like, compete with that, is you have to become that. Right. Like, it's that mentality. And I'm all right with it. Like, I'll have a short memory and be like, yeah, you tapped me 1,845 times, but that one submission I got, and
I got my one.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, and you think about that, you think about, like, how many people, like, how many times they've lost and whatever else. I mean, you even look at, like, obviously in wrestling, right? Like, in wrestling, you compete so much. Most people have losses, right? But when, they show their stuff, they're like, well, I won this medal, I won this championship, whatever. It's like, you're not judged on your losses. You're judged on, like, what did you win? You know what I mean? And so, like, a lot of times I think that was such a healthy thing from wrestling, was like, you're going to lose at stuff. You're going to fail at stuff. But it's like, you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, learn from it. And eventually you get better and you keep going until something happens. And I mean, I feel like that's just everything, right? Like, whether you're talking about business or talking about being a dad, talking about grappling, there's just so much, like, screwing up that's involved, failures involved. And it's like, what are you going to do? Stop just because it didn't go? You just keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. That mindset, that belief. And that's the core belief I have is I don't lose. I win or I learn. There's no losing. It's just I win or I learn, right? And even when I win, I learn. And even when I don't win, I still learn, right? So it's like always winning. So, like, when you have that mentality, it's tough to not be successful or consider yourself successful in that standpoint,
Very cool.
I appreciate
it,
Jake,
thanks for your time. You're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Running around upstairs. I'm going to go home and go upstairs and be the best dad I can be. Thank you guys for having on.
Appreciate you.
Keep doing what you're doing. The world needs it.
Well, I appreciate it, bro. Thanks for your time, Jake.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully maybe some ideas stuck with you, something maybe to chew on for the day. That's always the goal of the podcast, right? Is just get a little idea, and again, this is something I think about, like, the mindset stuff's really important. Like, there's, every now and then I'll get someone that messages me, like, on my videos, and it's like, why does this guy talk so much on the videos?
Why do you talk so much?
Why do I talk so, like, okay, Jesus Christ, man? Like, why did you have to tell me, why did you spend 6 to 7 to 8 minutes telling me, this thing to give me the piece of information?
Yeah.
And like what Jake said on there earlier, is like, information's not really all that important. It's cheap. I mean, information's boring, right? It's like, it's not even that useful or helpful. Because like most people have a general idea of what they need to do in order to make something happen, right? But somehow you don't do it, right? Like I could tell you that, like, you know, nine people out of 10, literally you could say, how could you, like, if you're overweight, what could you do right now to like improve? Stop eating fast food, drink more water, go for a walk. I mean, you can start there, right? Like,
Yep.
why don't you do it? You have the information. Why don't you do it? Because mentally you're not where you need to be to make that happen. Right. And a lot of times when you're talking to coaches, right, it's not the information that's so important. It's their experiences, the way that they blend things together, the way they teach you, or the way they motivate you. Like, that's the job of a coach, right? Is to use their wisdom and experience and everything else that they've gained. And it's that where they remix it, because there's really nothing new under the sun.
It's the story that creates the buy-in. Like, you have to
can.
share a story. Like, you have to
create an emotional change.
yeah,
in the
like
person.
some type of connection
Right.
to them, right? I mean, like, I think that the information's there. If you just, on your videos, you just share what I tell you about your videos, and I've said this before, is that you're a good storyteller. You have a good way of kind of weaving certain scenarios into a story and making it relevant and creating some type of buy-in, some type of emotional connection, or even, you know, just so someone understands, oh yeah, I can see myself in that, or I can see myself in this story or some resemblance. So that's what I think you do really well. And that's why I think, you know, if people watch your videos, they'll get that concept. They start to understand the story and the individual. So,
right. I mean, because you could literally go type it into Chat GPT, or Grok or whatever. Say, hey,
what's Grok?
It's another one of the AI model, right?
Interesting.
Hey guys, like, what do I need to do to make? It'll tell you. It'll tell you something. I mean, I don't know how accurate it's going to be, but it'll give you something to do. You gonna do it though? No, you're not gonna do it. It's like literally spitting out from a machine. Like, you're just like, oh, whatever, you know. Again, but then if you have a connection to a person, a coach, right, or someone that has gotten you to think differently about something, that's a powerful thing. That's so much more powerful than the information. Well, it's the difference between, like, when you say, for instance, like you think of like the life-changing books that people have. You know, you ask people, hey, what book has changed your life? You know what most people don't say? Textbooks. Most people don't say, hey, textbooks changed my life, man. I read this book. Oh God, blew my. No, I mean, like, I'm sure someone probably had their life changed from a textbook. Most people, it's like, it might be a biography you read about someone. Oh my God, it was so crazy to see what that guy went through and how much motivate you. Or it's like some guy sharing like a memoir where they're going through their stories and the lessons they learned, right? Those books are powerful because it's the human experience. It's that information. But again, it's almost like in jiu-jitsu, sometimes you learn kind of the concept or the technique, you learn how this thing is supposed to work. And then during the rolling or the situational training, whatever, you get to play with it and use it in live situations. And oftentimes it's a little messy, right? You're having to figure things out. And a lot of times the assistance that coaches can give in those situations is they've been there and messed around with this a lot. And they can then say, hey, move your hand over a little bit here. Just like Jake was talking about on the podcast earlier. Sometimes the best details you'll ever get are the smallest adjustments. It's like, move your hand 2 inches to the side, grab it this way, step this way. Sometimes it's the simplest stuff that makes the biggest difference, right? It doesn't have to be some life-altering thing. And, you know, but again, the only way that's learned is through experience and wisdom. Right? You gain the technical wisdom, the training wisdom, and then you can share that. And so, I don't know why I went on that rant, but I mean, that's just
well, it's kind of part of the, you know, the experience, the connection to the individual, which is also someone that's been there and done some aspect of it or has struggled with it. So I think you build relevance, you build connection in that way as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that's so going back to, that's what, like, when we're doing the podcast, that's always my thought process, is like, what can we drag out of someone if we have an interview? What can we pull from them that could be useful? Because I mean, I got some useful stuff from this podcast. Like, listen to them. Like, you guys, if you're watching this, you'll see my piece of paper. I usually have a notebook or piece of paper up here at the front, and like, usually when I leave, I fold the sucker up, put it in my pocket, I go home, and then there's usually ideas that I took from it, and I write them down and put them into my I have a big journal and Google Docs. So I can easily retrieve the information. I can just search it instead of putting it on paper. But I take the ideas home, and like, whatever I find interesting, ooh, that's a good one, I take it home and go ahead and put it on my computer so I can have it for later to retrieve and look back on. Or even some of them have been like quotes or ideas have been posted up on my wall, right? Because I got little quote boards. So this way, as soon as I walk in the morning, boom, stuff's staring at me. like ideas that are looking right at me, so I can't escape them.
Yeah.
And so again, hopefully that's the idea that we try to do with the podcast. Get something useful for you that you can take, that you can think about. And again, a lot of times it's very much a thinking thing. It's very hard to describe techniques or whatever. But I think when you start from the mindset portion, if we can get your mind to think a little differently, if we can get you to approach things a little differently, get you to have a different emotion around something, then that's powerful, because all the technique and all the stuff can fall into place. Going back to the way he was talking about with his kids and with people he coaches, and even himself, when you have that burning desire to make something happen, to change something, whatever, you will figure out all the how. It's the Nietzsche quote, right? It gets sort of butchered and changed right here, but the basic gist of it is, right, like, if you know your why, you can endure any how. You can figure it out, right? But you got to start from that part, while you're doing something. And so anyway, long sort of ramble there, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this thing happen week after week. Charlotte's Web CBD. If you guys have never checked them out, they have a lot of amazing products. They are one of the premier CBD companies out there. They're one of the OG products companies out there. They're third-party tested, so you can ensure the purity of the product. You can ensure that when you look on the label, that what's on the label is what's in the bottle, opposed to many CBD products that can't say that. Right? It's not regulated, but they go above and beyond what's required of them to make sure they deliver an amazing product. And so again, they do everything from CBD products, CBN products. They have functional mushroom products, which again can be used for a number of different benefits. You can check out their website and get more details on everything by going to their website at charlottesweb.com. The promo code at checkout is Chewjitsu 3030. Also, guys, one of my favorite companies that I get them to do all of my rash guards and gi or no-gi gear, right, is Epic Roll. Again, Matt and the crew over there, they make a lot of good stuff, a lot of cool designs, great customer service. Again, if you want some great quality stuff, check them out at epicrollbjj.com. They've got everything from gis, rash guards, shorts. They've got t-shirts, joggers, anything that you can think of jiu-jitsu related, they've got it. And again, you can get 20% off of the price by going to their website and using at epicrollbjj.com and using the promo code Chewjitsu20 at checkout. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly for a very inexpensive price, you can join our Patreon membership, which is at patreon.com/the-Jiu-Jitsu-podcast. Patreon.com/the-Jiu-Jitsu-podcast. Yeah, I was making sure I said that correctly in my head. But again, you can go there. You can look at the different perks that we give for people. We give a bunch of different stuff that you can get when you join up. And again, it supports the podcast, and it does so for a very inexpensive price. Again, it's just a little bit that helps come in and support the podcast. And you guys get some added perks for it. If you guys want to check out those perks, go to the website to get the details. If you guys would like to get my daily email that I send out, plus a ebook that I give away, an ebook and a video called Focus Jiu-Jitsu, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. When you join up, you'll get the ebook, which will go through 12 different strategies on how to implement focus training during open rolling sessions. The idea is to get more from your open rolling sessions, more focus and more skill. And at the same time, I'll show you how to do that. And there's a video that comes with it if you want me to basically break it down with you, as opposed to just reading it alone. And then also you will get the daily email that I send out. And again, if you like the podcast, if you like my videos, if you like the stuff that I put out, then you're probably going to like the daily email that I send out. Most people do. They enjoy it. I even have a lot of people that don't do jiu-jitsu on it. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of people that don't train jiu-jitsu and they like it because they're, again, there is training specific stuff. But there's a lot of generalized stuff, just like talking here that, you can talk to Jake about the ideas that he had in wrestling and other stuff, and you can see how they can apply to other areas, right? I think there's a lot of that. So anyway, if you guys want to check it out, chewjitsu.net, my website /join, JOIN, to get details. Also, guys, if you want to, been talking about this a bit here on the podcast at the end. My buddy Eugene, my co-host Eugene, the person that helps me run the podcast here and whatever, he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and also a doctor of physical therapy, and he runs a coaching option on his website. And I share this with you because I know our demographic, right? Most of you that listen to this are a bit on the older side. By older, I just mean like 30 plus, right? We're running like a sizable masters crew. Yeah. And I know this because like, if I go to like a young tournament, people notice me, people come up and say, hey, but like, where I feel like a friggin' rock star? Like Master Worlds, bro. I went to Master Worlds last year, and I was like just going there to coach a few guys, and I mean I could barely move.
More than normal.
even more than normal.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, I was having trouble just getting around. I literally had to say, hey guys, I'll come back and talk to you in a minute. I got to go coach this guy. Whereas like I go to like the ADCC competitions, like ADCC Opens or whatever. And, you know, people come up and say, hey, now
CJI was bad.
I will say this, the ADCC, what was it? 2022.
Yeah.
And then the CGI this year, that was a different story.
Yeah.
That one was different.
I left you. I was like, I want to go see some of these matches. Do we walk in 40 minutes later? I'm like, dude, all right, I'm going to go just see what's going on.
For me, I think about this. Like you guys listening, you're listening. You might be watching, you may have watched the video. So you guys get a connection to me. Maybe you get some ideas from this. I don't actually get to see you in person. So when we meet at like a competition, that might be the one time I ever meet you.
Yeah.
The one time. And so for me, the way that I think about it is like, this is a person who maybe has consumed hours of my content, whatever. And you're like, hey, you've helped me with something, da, 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 da. I'm like, oh, like I need to take a moment to like talk to you. Because I want to make at least some connection, just because again, you've done that. And I'd like to get to know you on some level, at least as quickly as we can in a few minutes. And so I'll sit there and talk to people for long periods of time. And like, if I don't get to my seat, it's like, it's whatever, you know? And, but at Master Worlds, it was a lot of people. And if I look at my analytics, and cause I mean, you know, you can literally look at your analytics in these different platforms, and it'll tell you how old people are. Right.
Yep.
And so it's like a lot of you guys are older. So with that said, getting long tangents today. With that said, with Eugene right now, he's doing a coaching program. And so what he does is, and by coaching, it's like you actually get like people like customizing things for you. So for a lot of people that are getting older, right, you're always trying to figure out ways to improve the way you recover, improve the way your body moves. Maybe you're coming back from an injury, coming back from a surgery, whatever that is. If you guys would like to have someone to work with you directly, talk to Eugene. Again, it's been invaluable to me, right? I'm lucky enough to have him as a student. So when stuff breaks on me, I like go to Eugene. A lot of our guys in the gym, when stuff breaks on them, they're like coming up to me, hey, Chewy, what's wrong with me? I'm like, don't ask me, go talk to Eugene. Go talk to him, because he's the guy. And so again, if something breaks on you and you don't have like a good physical therapist option, because a lot of physical therapists don't know what we do. Like they'll literally say, well, yeah, you're healthy enough to go about daily activity, like grabbing jars from a top shelf. But they don't understand that, hey, I'm going to put this dude in a freaking shoulder crunch and I'm going to stress the hell out of this labrum. They don't understand that. They don't know how to get people ready for it, because he's literally had people who were cleared from the doctor or cleared from a physical therapist and said, you're good to go. They're trying to go back to their sport of grappling. Meanwhile, they're just getting wrecked and getting re-injured. And he's like, you're not ready yet. And he gets them ready. And so again, I'm selling the crap out of him for you guys. But what I want you guys to understand is, if you guys need some help with that kind of stuff, he's your guy. So maybe it's not right now, but if you ever go through something and you want to either improve the way your body moves, or you want to come back from surgery or an injury and you need some assistance with that, he's the dude. And again, you guys can contact him. How, Eugene?
Yeah, they can get on my website, jujitsutherapist.com, and there's a contact link on there. Just send me an email through that and we can get in contact together and chat. And the other thing, I think where a lot of just traditional therapists, just to add this, physical therapists kind of, they don't understand, and you pointed it out too, they don't understand like the return to sport aspect. Like you have to have certain parameters that like we give you, like I give you a little bit of a playground, right? And then make it a little more. Now you can go play in this area and that area. And a lot of people here, you're good to go back. And they're like, in your mind, you're like, oh, I feel great.
Let's go full speed.
I'm ready to go. And then what you realize is your body's not quite there. The timing's not there. The tissue or it's just not quite prepared for the things that jujitsu, the stress that jujitsu puts on you. So having kind of like an on-ramp and someone to guide you is really beneficial. If it's me, great. If it's not, there's a lot of people out there that can help you out as well. But that's really important, especially if you've had an injury or even had surgery and you've spent the time and done some of this rehab. You want to get yourself back as safely as possible. I will say this, the number one predictor of injury is previous injury. So that just keep that in mind. If you've injured something before, you're more susceptible. So taking the mindset and the right steps to keep yourself healthy is important.
Yeah. Well, I remember coming back from like my knee surgery in 2014 versus my knee surgery in 2004. The 2004 knee surgery was basically like the physical therapists were like, yeah, you're all right.
You're young and just ready to roll.
Right. And so, I mean, I competed a month from
so crazy.
the surgery, and, my right knee doesn't fully extend anymore, right? Like I lost some degrees of extension because messed myself up. Just because, again, what he was saying happened to me. The physical therapist, like, yeah, you're good to go. And so what did I think? I think full speed. I'm going back to training.
Sure.
I got 2 to 3 weeks to get ready for this competition. I'm burning it up. And then in 2014, I was like, I'm going to do this right. So I had Eugene, he came up and gave me some movements, like these different movements to practice. Pretty much I just did them every day, right? Movements to do to work on improving everything else. And then I got, a little bit of guidance because, again, picking his brain, like, hey, what do you think about this? And then sort of prolonged or expanded my return window to about 12 weeks. So it was like we went from being very, very not 12 weeks after surgery necessarily, but like 12 weeks from, okay, I'm coming back, to 12 weeks from coming back, which starts with drills and movement, to week 12, I'm actually doing a full roll now. Right.
Mhm.
And like very different. The results were much better. My left leg recovered really well, and I don't have problems anymore out of it. Right. Like it gained full extension back, the whole deal. And so again, it's just something where it's not I just share this with you guys because it's not like a fun purchase, right? It's not like it's kind of like, when you got to get your roof fixed, or like, what I mean? It's like kind of sucks, but it sucks a lot worse than get your roof fixed. Friggin' having like water pouring down on your head, right? So it's like sometimes like the mobility stuff and the stuff isn't the fun, but it's a lot of fun being able to train consistently without injuries, being able to like get on the mats and not feel like your body's broken, being able to get up out of bed without hearing like Rice Krispies in your body because you've been doing the right mobility stuff, the right cool downs, things of that nature. And again, he works in when he does the coaching, it's accountability too. So long sales pitch to you guys, but at the same time, if you do come back from an injury, like if you don't get coaching, a little tip to you is to like set a schedule for yourself and say, okay, like we're going to stretch this sucker out way longer than what it needs to be probably, but better off slow, steady than too fast. Stretch that sucker out and like give yourself guidelines, right? And then basically say, I'm going to roll once this day. I'm going to roll twice this day. And even if, very easy, or I'm just going to do the warm-ups and the drilling and everything else. I'm not going to do any live rolls, and stretch it out. Give yourself a plan, opposed to, you come back, I feel kind of good. And then going full speed. Because again, I've seen so many guys get re-injured over and over again that way.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, guys, appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the podcast with Jake Herbert today, and we will talk to you next time.